So parameter store is a little bit of a confusing service because you can access it in two different ways. The first one is to go to EC2, and underneath EC2, if you scroll all the way to the bottom, there is System Manager Shared Resources, and you have parameter store. That's one way of doing it. And as you can see, you're greeted by the fact that we can create parameters, store sensitive data such as passwords and encrypt them, and we can access parameters across services. So that's number one way of doing it, using the EC2 Systems Manager parameter store. The other way is to just type parameter store and you get taken to System Manager directly. That's why it's called the SSM parameter store. And here, one more time, you have to scroll down to shared resources and click on parameter store. So two ways of accessing it, unfortunately, but that's the way it is. So we have a different UI, obviously, and so you can read through those, but we're just going to go ahead and create a parameter. So here I'll create a parameter called my app, and it's in the dev environment, and the first one is the database URL. And so I'll say database URL for my app in development. Okay. Now here we can have three types. We can have a string, and we can put whatever characters we want. String list, you have a list of strings using commas, or secure string when it's encrypted. Let's go with string first. And so for example, here is a database URL. So you can put whatever you want, but it has to be 4096 characters. So let's go ahead and say dev.database.stephantheteacher.com. And it's just something very random, and maybe I'll add the port 3306. So it's just whatever you want it to be. Okay, so here's just a random URL for me, dev.database.stephantheteacher.com 3306. I'll go ahead and create that parameter. And so here the create parameter request succeeded, and we have our first parameter. Turns out that we can see the description, the type, and also the version. So if we ever modify this parameter, we'll get a last modified date that will be new, and the last modified user that will be tracked as well, so we can know who modified what. If I click on this, again, you get a summary, you can see the history of the values, and you can see the tags. Similarly, let's just click on get started now. Oops, let's just click on parameter store again. So click here, parameter store. And in the EC2 URL, we see the exact same parameter, obviously, but with a slightly different UI, more like EC2-like UI. So it's whatever you want, really. They have the same kind of capabilities for creating parameters. It's just whatever you prefer, okay? So let's go back to Systems Manager, and we have our DB URL. So what I want to do is maybe create another parameter. So I'll create a parameter, and this time I'll call it DB password for our app database. And so I'll just say database password for my app in development. And here I have a secure string. So this time we're going to encrypt our secret. And so we'll use KMS for encrypting. We can use our current account or another account for the KMS key source. We'll use our current account. And we can use the AWS provided key, okay? But we also can use the key we've created from before. So I've created a tutorial KMS key from before. And so we can just use that one as well. It's whatever you prefer based on how you want to manage your security. So I'll use my tutorial, and here's the value, and I'll say this is the dev password. And we don't see it because it's a secret value, and this will be encrypted. So I'll create the parameter, and now we see that we have a new parameter right here called dev db password. It's a secure string now, so that means it's encrypted, and the key ID is alias/tutorial, and the version is 1. If I click on it, we can see that the value is hidden, but I can click on show, and this will decrypt the value for me on the fly and say this is the dev password. So this is pretty cool now, because what we can do is definitely copy these, and so we're going to do it again, but this time in prod. So let's go ahead and create parameters. I'll create this in prod, so I'll just change a bit the path, and I'll say database URL for my app in prod, and I'll just be quick, prod.database.stephantheteacher.com, port 3306. I'll create it, and I'll just create one last parameter, and we're going to create the DB password in prod, and the description is going to be in production, and secure string, I'll use my same tutorial value, and here I'll say prod password. Okay, I'll create the parameter. So now we have 4 parameters, and we want to be able to access them. So what we can do is access them, for example, using the CLI first. So we are going to use the CLI to get the parameters. So it's called get parameters. And you have to provide a names. And for this, we have to provide the names of the parameters we want. So for me, I'll just say I want my DB URL and my DB password and press enter. And now we get back from the API two results. We get the DB password back and the DB URL. So let's look at the result, right? The first one is that it's a string for the DB URL, and here's the value of the string. And as you can see, because it was not encrypted, the value comes back decrypted, and the version is 1. So that's perfect. We can see our database URL and use this. But for the password, it's a secure string, and here's the value of it, which is an encrypted value. So for this, you basically need to decrypt it. And for this, you have a special parameter, and it's called with decryption. So I'll do with decryption. And so this will check whether or not I have the KMS permission to decrypt this secret that was encrypted with the KMS tutorial key. So I'll press enter. And now this time, for my secure string, the value has been decrypted because I specified the with decryption parameter. And so this is pretty cool because very, very quickly we're able to have encrypted values, and people that can't access them because they don't have access to KMS, that protects my password. But if I have access to KMS, I'll just provide one extra flag with decryption. And here we go, I get the value of my dev password. So it's really, really neat. The other thing we can do is do AWS SSM, get parameters by path. And let's go to the help. So the get parameters by path allows us to go through a path, and we have to provide the path name, and it has to start with a /. So if we do get parameters by path, and I'm going to delete this, I'm just going to keep my app dev, and I'll say get parameters by path, and the path is going to be this. Then this is going to query for all the parameters under this path. And this is why we have a tree structure. And what we get out of it, obviously, is the parameters we had from before. So what we could do now is go one level up to just my app and do ---- recursive to get all the parameters recursively under my app. Press enter, and now we get our 4 parameters back: DB password, DB URL, DB password for prod, and DB URL for prod. So using this tree structure, we're basically able to organize our secrets and get them all at once, which is really neat. So that's it. You can also obviously provide the with decryption flag and get the decryption. So that's just for the CLI, but in the next lecture, I just want to show you how it works with AWS Lambda because it is very simple as well. So see you in the next lecture.